Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a story. There was once a young man named Daniel. To the world, he looked ordinary: brown hair, quiet eyes, the kind of person you might pass by in a grocery store aisle without remembering. But inside, Daniel was fighting a battle no one else could see. Every morning when he opened his eyes, fear was already awake, waiting beside his bed. Anxiety wrapped itself around his chest like an iron chain, whispering questions that had no answers. What if you fail today? What if they laugh at you? What if you're not enough? Daniel's fear was not loud and dramatic, it was subtle, almost invisible. He wasn't running from burning buildings or being chased by enemies. His fear lived in silence. It lived in the way he hesitated before speaking in meetings, the way he avoided phone calls, the way he turned down opportunities because the thought of failure hurt more than the thought of never trying. I wonder, does that sound familiar? Because fear and anxiety are not strangers to any of us. Maybe your fear doesn't look like Daniel's. Maybe yours hides in financial struggles, the weight of an illness, the worry of disappointing your family, or the trembling uncertainty of tomorrow. Maybe your anxiety wakes you up at 3 a.m. and refuses to let you sleep. Maybe it keeps you from chasing the dream you've carried in your heart for years. If so, let me tell you, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are not alone. Fear is part of being human. Anxiety is part of being alive in a world that demands so much from us. But, and this is the heartbeat of what I want to share today, fear is not the end of your story. One winter morning, Daniel found himself standing in front of a community center in his neighborhood. He had seen a flyer weeks earlier: volunteers needed for Saturday's soup kitchen. No experience necessary. He wasn't there because he was brave. He was there because his therapist had once told him, "When you feel paralyzed by your own thoughts, try serving someone else. Anxiety shrinks when love grows." So Daniel walked in. His hands were shaking, his palms sweaty. His anxiety screamed, "You don't belong here. You'll mess this up." But then he noticed something. In the corner of the room sat a little girl, maybe 8 years old, wearing a coat 2 sizes too big. She wasn't asking for food. She wasn't crying. She was just watching, with eyes that carried the weight of hunger and loneliness. Daniel picked up a tray and served her a bowl of soup. She looked up at him, smiled softly, and whispered, "Thank you." Something shifted inside him. That simple moment, eye to eye, human to human, silenced his fear for the first time in years. He realized something profound: fear had always told him that life was about him, his mistakes, his failures, his imperfections. But anxiety lost its power the moment he stopped staring at himself and started seeing someone else. Friends, isn't it strange? Fear thrives in isolation. Anxiety grows when we hide in the shadows of our own minds. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to take one step forward, even with fear whispering in your ear. Daniel didn't become fearless overnight. The next week, he still struggled to get out of bed. He still felt his chest tighten before going to the soup kitchen. But he kept showing up. And every time he looked into the eyes of someone he served, every time he saw gratitude where he expected rejection, his fear lost a little more ground. Months later, something unexpected happened. The same little girl he had served on his first day, her name was Lily, walked up to him with a crayon drawing. She handed it to him shyly. It was a picture of him, holding a bowl of soup, with the words, "My hero." Daniel cried. Not because he believed he was a hero, but because he finally understood something. Sometimes the most anxious, fearful person in the room can become the light someone else is waiting for. Now, let me pause here. What does Daniel's story mean for us? For you sitting here, listening, carrying your own weight of fear. It means this: fear is a liar. Anxiety is a thief. But they only win if you believe them. They say, stay silent. Stay hidden. Stay small. But the truth is, every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every step of compassion tears away their power. Think about it, when was the last time you did something kind for someone else? Did you notice how, for a brief moment, your own worries disappeared? That's not an accident. That's a universal truth. We overcome fear not by erasing it, but by overwhelming it with love, connection, and purpose. But let's be honest, the path isn't easy. One evening, months into volunteering, Daniel faced a storm. He had applied for a job promotion, something he had avoided for years because of fear. He prepared, he studied, he pushed himself to believe he was capable. But when the interview came, his anxiety returned like a hurricane. His hands shook, his words stumbled, and a week later, the rejection email landed in his inbox. Daniel spiraled. He felt like he had failed himself, failed his progress, failed the little girl who called him her hero. Fear whispered louder than ever, "See? You'll never be enough." But then, something remarkable happened. The next Saturday, when he arrived at the soup kitchen, Lily ran up to him with that same smile, holding another crayon drawing. This time it wasn't just him. She had drawn herself, standing beside him, both of them holding trays of food. Above it, she had written, "Together." In that moment, Daniel realized, fear can tell me I'm not enough. But love reminds me that I don't have to be enough alone. Here lies the turning point, not just for Daniel, but for all of us. We think overcoming fear means becoming invincible. But maybe overcoming fear means becoming connected. Fear says, "You're weak." Anxiety says, "You're broken." But compassion says, "We're in this together." Humanity whispers, "You don't have to carry this alone." Think of the times in history when people have risen above impossible odds. Soldiers in war who leaned on each other. Civil rights leaders who stood arm in arm. Survivors of disasters who pulled strangers from rubble. None of them were fearless, but they were united. And unity is stronger than fear. So what do we do when fear knocks on our door? We answer with courage, yes. But more importantly, we answer with kindness. Because kindness, whether it's serving soup, giving a smile, holding someone's hand, or simply saying, "I believe in you," is the antidote to anxiety. It pulls us out of the prison of self-doubt and reminds us that life is not about perfection, but connection. And here's the secret. Every time you act with compassion, every time you step into love instead of fear, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching yourself, "I am capable. I am strong. I can make a difference." Let's fast forward. Years later, Daniel became a counselor. Not because his fear vanished, but because he learned how to live with it, and still move forward. He stood on stages like this, sharing his story. And every time, someone in the crowd would come up afterward with tears in their eyes and whisper, "That's me. I thought I was alone." Daniel always smiled and said the same thing, "You're not alone. You never were. And you never will be." So today, my friends, let me leave you with this. If you are carrying fear so heavy it feels like chains, if anxiety is stealing your sleep, your peace, your joy, remember Daniel. Remember the little girl with the crayon drawings. Remember that fear is loud, but love is louder. Overcoming fear and anxiety doesn't mean never trembling, never stumbling, never failing. It means choosing, again and again, to rise, to try, to give, to connect. It means daring to believe that your story is bigger than your fear. And maybe, just maybe, the very thing you are most afraid of is the doorway to the life you were meant to live. So take the step. Speak the words. Share the kindness. Offer the hand. Because the world is waiting, not for a perfect, fearless version of you, but for the real you, the one who knows fear and still chooses courage. The one who knows anxiety and still chooses love. The one who can look into the eyes of a stranger, a child, a neighbor, and remind them, "We are in this together." And when enough of us do that, fear will lose, anxiety will fade, and humanity will shine brighter than we ever imagined. Thank you.